This is an overview of Lesson 3.1 of Year 2 of the Good Project lesson plans, and Lesson 3.1 is the first lesson of the third unit, where we start to focus on dilemmas and using various different lenses to read into those dilemmas. This particular lesson goal is around using the lens of roles, both personal and professional roles, to make decisions about dilemmas. Assessment tools include monitoring conversations about the comprehension of these roles and the 3 E's when breaking down dilemma scenarios, and then analyzing the exit tickets. There are a few different portfolio documentations, including 4C's thinking routine handout and then the exit ticket. Resources are a handout with 3 different dilemmas, and then there are optional video versions of the 3 dilemmas as well. So whichever way your students or you want to approach the dilemmas, we have short versions, longer versions, and then also the video versions as well. An optional refresher is to remind the students of what you were doing in the previous class, where there were mentoring networks. And again, these refreshers are all suggestions depending on your own timing and how long it's been since you had the previous lesson. So to jump right into the lesson itself, we begin with breaking the students into groups to discuss 3 different dilemmas. Here's the handout. Again, there is a short version, a long version, and then for each of the dilemmas, there is a video version as well, if that's your preference or your student's preference. We suggest presenting the students, giving them a choice or assigning the different dilemmas. Each of the dilemmas focuses on one of the 3 E's, and we're encouraging you to let your students try to figure out which is the most relevant. It's very simple to find. I wouldn't say simple. It's actually possible to find each of these 3 elements in each of the dilemmas, but one is usually prominent. We also suggest that it's also perfectly fine to bring in your own content. So one educator in our community of practice actually swapped fictional dilemmas for the ones here, which is completely okay. This particular teacher used dilemmas from novels that they were reading because they also had some reading to be doing. So that's absolutely fine. However you want to get to the dilemma discussion. So if you stick with this scenario, we suggest using a 4C thinking routine. So bring the students together and ask them to consider the questions of the 4C's routine, which are connections, challenge, concepts, and changes. So these are the 4C's. So it's just a structure to analyze a text-based discussion. So what are the connections you draw between the dilemma and your own life or other learnings? What are the challenges present? So just a really great thinking routine to guide the discussion. Then ask the students to rotate discussion groups and to share their learnings with one another. Have them reconvene into new groups so that a student from each dilemma is represented in each group. So they will be they will gradually have a representation of each of those dilemmas. And then ask them to share out together as a class, starting with the first dilemma, move on to the second. And for each narrative, we ask that the students describe a brief overview, the E that they believe the narrative or the dilemma represented. Is it excellence, ethics, or engagement primarily? And the roles that were in conflict for the main character. And then the exit ticket is yet another dilemma, and asking the students on their own to, having just gone through a dilemma, here's a new one to puzzle through, and ask them to think again which of the 3 E's is represented, what roles might she be considering, both as a professional, as a parent, as an employee, etc. And using these various different roles as approaches to unpacking that dilemma. So there's your overview of Lesson 3.1.